This workout is designed to be a really simple post-competition weekend workout to do some gentle stretching and check how your dog is feeling. Remember to give them a decent rest after a competition. So we're starting with a little bit of a warm-up. We're using some Cavaletti poles with Dio. These are about his height to his withers apart, and I am feeding him at each end, and he's going nice and straight to the targets. This is going to warm up his body, but also check that his stride length is nice and even, and he can trot evenly through those Cavaletti poles. When he's warmed up, we're going to move on to our first active stretch. This stretch is called a lumbar stretch, and what we're doing is putting him in a down position and then feeding his nose to get him to stretch forwards a little bit. As he stretches forward, he's going to engage his core muscles around his spine and around his pelvis, and his pelvis is going to rotate forwards. You can see this because his knees drop down lower when his nose stretches forwards. This not only engages all the core pelvis, but it resets his posture in the down from an incorrect posture position. Our next exercise is another postural exercise. This is a posture sit. What I'm doing with Grid is I'm sitting him on 2 separate platforms. That's just to keep his feet slightly separated. As he's sitting, when I'm not feeding him, you can see that his pelvis rolls back and we get a little bit of a curve on his back. I'm feeding him in position and stretching his nose up and forwards to engage that core musculature and get his pelvis to roll forward slightly. You'll see this on Grid because his knees will drop down towards his rear toes. You can also see he's nice and even in his rear feet and his front feet and how he's sitting. Our next stretch is for the front end. This is a stretch that I call duck for cover or say prayers. We're working on stretching out your dog's forelimbs and aspects of their upper back and their chest. I'm cueing Evo to come up onto my arms and then feeding him for ducking his head under my arm. As I'm doing this, I'm making sure he's nice and even on his back feet and his front feet over my arms. This stretch is a similar stretch, but here we're focusing on the rear end. This is a tip toes to nose stretch because we're aiming for our dogs to be a straight line from their rear tip toes up to their nose. This stretch is especially important for agility dogs because we're checking that the dog's hip flexors are feeling okay, they're not sore, and they're able to stand straight and stretch up evenly. If a dog's hip flexors or iliopsoas are sore, they will not stay still, they will not be even on their back feet, and they won't stretch into full hip extension. We're also getting a little cheeky bicep stretch as well there with that exercise. Now we're going to check down the side of our dog's body with cookie stretches. I'm helping Grid to keep his back feet nice and still using a target. I'm supporting under his chest, and then I'm stretching his nose past his shoulder, his ribs, down to his hip, down to his hock, and then I'm reversing that motion. It's okay if they move their feet because they can't turn nice and tight if they don't, but we don't want them to spin in circles, particularly for this exercise. So I'm checking that he's comfortable doing that stretch to the level that he normally would and that he's nice and even on one side compared to the other. I'm always feeding a neutral stand before I go back and stretch in the other direction. The next exercise is similar to the cookie stretches. I'm checking how flexible and how comfortable they are turning in each direction. But in this exercise, instead of doing it static, so nice and still, I'm using motion. So I'm turning Evo to the left and then to the right in tight circles. What I'm doing with this exercise is I'm also checking to see if he can turn the same amount of tightness to the left and to the right. I'm trying really hard to keep his nose nice and level with his back not too high up. Our last check after a big, long, busy weekend of competition is how their backs are feeling. Being able to identify trigger points, heat, or pain really early on means that we can do work on any parts of our dog's bodies that are feeling a little bit sore. So when I'm going down Florrie's back, I'm putting moderate pressure on the muscles on either side of her spine. I'm looking for any reactions like that one, where she might flinch, move away, or I might see muscles twitch. This could indicate areas of fascial knots, tightness of muscles, inflammation, or just general soreness. After I identify the points in her that feel a little bit uncomfortable, I'm then going to do a little bit of gentle massage and potentially use heat over these areas to try and get the muscles to relax and get her to help her to feel better. Very importantly, after a big busy weekend resting, we need to make sure that our dogs have relaxation time. We don't want to work them too hard. We want to give their bodies time to recover. When dogs are competing, they can have little tiny micro tears and little tiny stresses through their body. And if we don't give those muscles time to repair, then these tiny stresses and tiny micro tears can potentially become injuries. So make sure you give your dog, after a weekend of competition, some decent time to relax before you do any work with them. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. Let me know if it's been useful and tag me on social media doing some of the exercises with your dogs.